And so in the last couple sessions here today, I want to kind of raise us up from the forest, or from the trees, so we can see the forest and really start focusing on some ways in which to effectively approach these needs for transformation and how we can make this privacy-centric transformation a reality for our businesses. So in our first kind of trip down this path, shall we say, I would like to introduce our next two presenters. The first is Amy Copeland, who is the Director of Global Data and Tech for EMEA at Google. And then also kind of facilitating a discussion with her will be Michael Loban, who is our Chief Growth Officer at InfoTrust. So Amy, I'll turn it over for you to kick us off.
Thank you. I don't think I can talk at the speed of Tyler, but I'll do my best. And sorry about my voice. I'll also try and keep that for the rest of the presentation. So firstly, happy International Women's Day. I'm great to be the female speaker of the day, but I also appreciate all the male allies, and also great to see lots of women in this space. So, woo! Right. Yeah, it does deserve a round of applause. I agree. So yes, at Google we have titles that don't mean anything to anybody. So what do I do in my day job? It's I work with our largest advertisers headquartered in EMEA around how they can future-proof their data and tech infrastructure. My clients include Unilever, L'Oreal, Volkswagen, etc. And yeah, so we're going to sort of take a little bit more view and talk about a concept that we've been really observing around how our clients are engaging with partners and that complexity that sort of manifests itself and actually slows down the digital transformation that we're trying to achieve. Oh, I haven't used this. Am I on? Yes. So I'm going to introduce a concept called multi-partner orchestration. And you may have heard of that term, but I'll go through and what it means and sort of what I can help you think about when you're talking to your partners about digital transformation. But I'm going to start with a great quote from Mario Andretti, who's a Formula One racing driver, who talks about if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. And I know in digital transformation that may be a scary concept. And often we need strong leaders at the front to really accelerate the business. Because the risk is, if we don't accelerate where we're going, we have a risk that potentially marketing starts looking at a cost of the business rather than a growth driver. And investment starts to move to other areas. So it's really, really important to keep accelerating in this space because we know that digital transformation is slow and prone to failure. The couple of stats here which says that 2/3 of projects are actually not on schedule to hit their objectives. And actually 83%, and central to this conversation, of projects in digital and analytics fail. So these are really scary stats when we know that we've got to change. We know the ads ecosystem's changing. We know consumer expectations are changing. So what can we do? And how can we really speed up that transformation? And I'm not going to tell you the whole playbook today, but I'm going to go into one area. But firstly, if we think about digital transformation in the context of change management, because that's really what we're in a job to do, is really change the course of how we're doing things today to be future-proof and durable. So if we think about the 5 stages of change management, from shifting that mindset to strategic alignment, applying that strategy, executing, and then in flight, i.e. activating on, we know there are loads of hurdles, and this is a bumpy road, but actually it can also go backwards. You can go into a spiral sometimes when investment has changes or stakeholders have changed, etc. But when we stepped to look at it, we actually focused on this top right-hand corner, the in-flight phase. And we identified there are 2 areas, lack of partner governance and lack of transfer of ownership, that is really prohibiting a successful digital transformation. And actually, 88% of leaders cite that integration challenges is slowing down transformation. So we felt there was a real opportunity to think about, like, well, how can Google help in this place? So firstly, we came up with the term of, like, well, what do we mean by here? And how could we sort of create a framework to really help that in-flight phase? And this is where multi-partner orchestration came to play. And this is really about the ability for a marketer to manage more than one service partner. And I know InfoTrust would love you to think that you only work with them, but I guess if everyone would put their hands up to say, we have more than just one partner that we work for in digital transformation. And this enables strong multi-partner orchestration, really enables the smartest possible marketing decisions, the best use of that enterprise technology, and also the ability to achieve the digital transformation roadmap, which is what we're all here to do. So how did we go about understanding what are the real challenges, what are the clients that we're seeing that are doing successfully, and what can we share? So we have a fantastic team in the US called Value Consultancy, and they actually went out and spoke to marketers in all 3 regions across different verticals such as CPG, tech, media, my voice is going to go, and others, auto, and they actually went out and sort of talked to them. And I can happily share this white paper that we produced on this particular topic, but I'm just going to share with you a couple of things that we observed. Firstly, excuse me, I think it's appropriate to cough in these days, but I'm also a bit cautious. But firstly, it's what are those symptoms? So how can we identify that actually we're not achieving what we're trying to achieve? And what are the sort of symptoms that we're really observing? Well, we know that, and you've heard about the complexity, and I think on many presentations today already, but marketers are often in a state of reactivity. They're reacting to regulation, they're reacting to changes in the ecosystem, they're reacting to new technology, and therefore they're not having that ability to really step back and set that clear end state vision. And what this is doing is kicking off an execution plan that is just sort of like, right, well, let's go and achieve this bit, or let's do this piece. And I'm all for experimentation, but if there's no vision and plan, then the execution will also fail. Measurement. So again, I'm not repeating anything new that you haven't heard today, but we know that measurement is going to change. And how we think about briefing our partners on the KPIs of measurement of today and the future is really, really critical. Silos. I mean, I'll touch on silos as one of my bugbears, I would say, but it is a really important topic. We have silos across the businesses. We know that these digital transformations don't sit in one business unit. They sit across a number of business units. But we also see that procurement, when working and procuring partners, are actually intentionally creating silos for commercial benefit. And this has fundamentally got to change if we're really going to be successful and create the collaboration opportunities. Partners can't work in silos. One partner working on server-side GTM and one partner activating media have to have a dialogue about what's important and what are the overall KPIs of success. And there's a real opportunity to do that. And then there's governance around how do we govern the success? How do we bring the teams together? Because the lack of governance model also is deemed really critical for a successful digital transformation. So those are some of the symptoms that we see when there is no overlying strategy. And talking about multi-partners, so John Halverson is one of our strong partner with us with Google. He was the CMO of Mondelez, now the Chief Experience Officer, which is a new title that's popping up. But this quote really sums up exactly what we are looking for marketers to take control of. So as a client, when you have one agency, it's their job to integrate with you. But when you have multiple agencies, it's your job to integrate. And really thinking about that quote and applying that to how you operate with all your partners is critically important. And so within this white paper, we really came through sort of 7 clear commitments. We're not anyone to, I don't know if they're not biblical in any way, but there are really things that I think marketers can think about to really transform, accelerate, and deliver successful digital transformations. So the first one is fundamentally the client, the marketer, owns that digital transformation. And we really want the ownership to sit with the marketeer. Partners absolutely play a critical role from particular skills, from knowledge, from advising. But the first thing is to really get that clear ownership from the marketeer on their transformation. And then it's around that governance and swim lanes. Like, how do you work with the partners? How do you share the KPIs? How do you ensure that there are clear statement works that actually enable all the partners to achieve the same objective, not competing objectives? And with that, there's a real opportunity to evolve a QBR. Rather than a look back of what the business has achieved, could it be a collaboration between different agencies and partners, really around what's next, how can we evolve, and how can we really develop that? And again, we believe it's the marketer's responsibility to be in control and foster that collaboration. Clients love one-to-one time with their partners, and really allowing the space for partners to have that one-to-one time, again, really improves the success of any digital transformation. We're also very aware that many partners have a portfolio of offering that they can own with their clients, and they're all competitor, they're all there to do it, but how can we work with procurement to really understand what are the statements of work and protect those statement of works for partners, so there isn't that constant competitive pitching, and be more structured when there is an opportunity for competitive pitching. And I think the last two things I think are really important, and really the mindset that we all have to sort of embrace as we look at new measurement opportunities, new ways to target audiences post-cookies, is really like, what are those budgets assigned for experimentation or failing forward, and not penalizing your partners when a test with a particular new technology hasn't hit that KPIs. We spoke to some partners, they actually signed like 10% of their budget where it is a test budget and we know that we're going to use it that way. But if we don't embrace those new technologies, we will not be successful for our overall digital transformation. And the last one is around, how do you cultivate the agency and partner talent pipeline? How, as marketeers, can we be clearer about what we're trying to look to over the next 12 or 24 months, which allows that agency to sort of fulfill and build that pipeline of talent and make it attractive to them? So these are just some ideas and thoughts as we talk about it, and I'd love to share that document with you, and I also love feedback from it. But I think now I'm going to invite Michael to have a little Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amy, for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Certainly have some follow-up questions. Maybe we can start with Mario Andretti's quote, if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. Kind of reminds me of Tyler's presentation. Let me actually ask a question for the audience. How many of you believe that your organization is maybe not going as fast as you would want it to go? That maybe things are a little bit slower? Some maybe are embarrassed to raise their hand. Okay, so we have a few. So let me ask you a question. Especially we work in large organizations, we have this feeling, well, it's not going fast enough. Can procurement really take 4 months to sign a paper, right? How long should an MSA actually be, and stuff like that. But how do we measure speed and agility of the organization? It seems like something that we feel, but we don't always define it. And if we don't define it, how will we know that the company is at some point starting to move much faster? Yeah.
And I think this gets to the phase where companies are often not allowed to sort of step back and have a moment to think about, like, what are they trying to achieve? And have we got the right measurements of success or the business objectives to really achieve that? And as I said, only 17% of these projects are actually successful. I think the traits that I see that do make clients operate quickly and actually achieve the success at the pace that they want to achieve it is firstly really having that executive sponsor. Mm-hmm. And that's not someone that just puts their name at the top of the document or, has a credit at the end saying thank you to the executive sponsor. We're all familiar with those. It's someone that is leaned in, that is proactive, that is driving the project and actively involved. And if you do, they're 76% more likely to be successful. So where there is a strong executive sponsor, we see that acceleration happens. The other thing is around communication, and how do you communicate the KPIs and what you're trying to achieve, and what are the mechanisms to do that? I had this amazing stat given to me, you may have heard it, that in a month, an average employee receives 1 million words of corporate comms to them. So that could be pings, presentation, town halls, emails, et cetera, et cetera. So just think about that incoming content that's getting. And that actually equates to reading Moby Dick 5 times in a month. It's a huge, huge amount. So how do you actually get your message clear and actually be able to continue that digital transformation with all this noise? And I found the most successful companies on digital transformation have that clear message, are repeating it in every location, even using it in a competitive way with their board session, actually, being very out about their digital transformation. And I find, again, that's another reason that we can be really successful in terms of accelerating and achieving and being clear about what you're trying to achieve from your goals.
I love both points about executive sponsorship and clear communication. In our first book, when we talked about digital transformation and analytics, we talked that organizations that often do this well are the ones that have very clear purpose. Why are we really doing this? To the point where everyone within the organization can explain what's behind this, not just we are going to deploy service, yes, but what is it really that we are after? Seems to make a huge difference.
100%, yeah.
So I suspect you presented on this topic before. What do you think has changed over the past couple of years as you've been meeting with organizations and presenting on the topic of digital transformation? It seems like every organization thinks or believes that they need to be doing that. How has your approach or the way you're describing the topic or advising organizations evolved over the past couple of years?
Yes, so I have been in this for a few years, and I think the conversation has changed. I think the two things is, hey, it's really complex. I mean, amazing content today, but it's a lot and it's complex. And also, CMOs are now, and I touched on it in my presentation, are really managing a change management process. It's not just managing a budget and achieving, a certain level of customer acquisition or whatever the target is. It's a change management process. So that's also daunting, and they don't necessarily have the skills to do that. I think, again, it comes back to there's no time for these sort of CMOs to really step back and stop being reactive to whatever's new and what they feel that they need to defend or own, but really stepping back and having a strategy. And with that complexity and the number of different models you can now do with data, we're also finding, linking it back to sort of partners, is that the CMOs or marketers are relying on different partners to achieve like an omnichannel strategy or achieve a lifetime modeling strategy. And again, that's building all of these silos and not coming up with a smooth overarching strategy rather than a quick execution plan. And therefore, we need the marketers to really step back, overall plan, and think about not only what are they trying to execute to future-proof their businesses, but also how are they working with those partners to really smooth that out. And yeah, the complexity is not going away.
Well, and it seems like it's only continuing to increase. Right now, on top of digital transformation, we also have privacy transformation, we have governance transformation. So how do you think that impacts what organizations should be doing? And are we going to start saying, well, digital transformation is over. If you haven't done it, you're behind. But next thing is for you to do privacy transformation.
Yeah. So I think, for me, they're very much interlinked, and maybe that's the nature of where I work, but it's, for me, they're very much interlinked. But privacy is definitely a C-suite topic. For all of my relationships with these large advertisers, it's all at a C-suite level. Really understanding where that company is on a privacy spectrum is incredibly important. But also understanding to be able to do that, it's not in one department. It's in legal, it's in regulation, it's in marketing, it's in IT, etc. And I think what I'm seeing is that the marketers are really grappling, and the board grappling about how do we bring that together to really have one cohesive strategy. And referencing to your book, which I have read, and it's great, so kudos to you and your team. I think you referenced there was an example where actually projects failed to actually lift off because there was no overall sort of bringing these silos together to be actually deliver one message. So yes, it's interlinked. Companies definitely in EMEA have to have a point on privacy and understand where they are on that spectrum, and therefore what are they going to be doing within their organization.
Right before I came to London, I was in Amsterdam meeting with another partner, and we asked them, tell us a little bit more about your current strategy. And they described it as the title of the current movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So clearly there is something to be said about prioritization of the activities, and we'll talk about multi-partner orchestration in a second. But with all of the changes that you've mentioned, how should we be thinking about the role of the marketer? Right? Because it used to be the role of a marketer is more around campaign execution. Now it seems like marketing is becoming more about experience, like the title of gentleman from Mendelez.
Yep.
So what is the role of the marketer? At what point I'll be saying, well, this is not really the job of a marketer anymore. Where are the guardrails?
Still to be defined, I would say. It's like, I was actually at another conference yesterday where it was a group of marketers, and they were like, they're all grappling, and they were talking about, it was more focused on customer experience. But again, the same situation comes as like, how are we linking all of these different parts of marketing together, but also with a big emphasis on digital technology. And again, the most successful marketers that I'm working with see this as a transformation and a change management story. And they see it and embrace it in that way. So as I said, it's no longer just around, budget allocation and ensuring that it's driving, being growth to the business. It is so much more than that, and so much more complex than that in terms of the experience, in terms of they have a view on the privacy regulation, how are they going to engage with their customers, what does that mean for them in terms of the experiences, particularly when you're connecting online and offline. So yeah, it's a huge and critically important role that's getting ever more complex.
I love the point about change management. I think at some point Google has done research about what marketing organizations are most successful, and it closely correlates to the number of experiments that you can be running. Typically, those organizations that really succeed are the ones that are able to experiment more. But you have to really continue with that logic. If you're able to experiment more, it means that you're going to have more change that you then need to decide how am I going to act on. And if you are not comfortable with that as a marketer or as an executive, likely even if you do experiment, you are not going to know what to do with the results of that work.
Yeah, and that's when it's sort of like, balancing with experiments. So like, how does that become core? Mm-hmm. And and I often think about, even some of the newer technologies around, migrating from GA360 to GA4, or moving to server-side tagging. Like, how does that become a core functionality within your business and no longer an experiment?
Right.
And what are those tipping points that make it so core? And so, like, when is it hitting the KPIs that you've defined as a business, rather than becoming a specialist bit of technology that you're experimenting? We're excited by Sandbox. We want to, Sandbox obviously is going to be rolling out in terms of our way to still do targeting with Chrome without cookies. But it's not core, it's still experiment. But at some point, there's going to be a tipping point that it does become core. And it's ensuring that your organization is moving up to that tipping point and not being falling behind.
And while those solutions are available for you to experiment with, that's exactly what the marketer should be doing, is experiment and see the impact on their business.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears maybe just a little bit. And a big part of your presentation was on multi-partner orchestration.
Yes.
And as I was listening your presentation, I was also thinking about Tyler's slide about the complexities of different vendors and solutions. So having multiple partners where each one brings their best to the table makes total sense. But how should we be thinking about it from the governance standpoint? Because more partners you have, more of an issue you might be having with governance, who has access to what, at what point you should be revoking someone's access. So who should not have access to different points of information. Any perspective of, as we continue to work with more partners, how we should be improving our governance practices?
Yeah, so I work with a very large French company that I think 2 years ago had about 47 different partners working across their global business. I don't think that's unusual. I think, but like there was literally no governance, and then not only no governance, but as you said, you get into data sharing access, who owns the data, how's it being utilized, and we actually partnered with them and another partner, which also sounds odd in its own context. But whilst they built out and they have a very strong central team, they needed a partner to sort of help bring that governance. And actually, it came to a case where they actually streamlined partners to programs. So again, rather than having tactical projects all spinning off in different directions, or having, in my case, I work with global advertisers, so having local and global agencies is fine, but like, how do we manage that? So they actually brought like a number of programs where you actually gave a greater level of responsibility to a particular partner to, again, eliminate that, but also create that governance. And I think we streamlined it from 47 to, I think, 7 from members, and then created that clear governance structure. So they are very focused on the central team being the, it's not directive, but like giving the guidelines on all of the best practices, how you use data, nomenclature, et cetera. So really being centrally governing the data validity and how clean it is, but also how it's used and actually taking insights. It's a huge amount of work. It needs investment, but it can work. But yeah, you need to not being reactive, getting a partner for partner's sake. Really step back again. Is that taking that moment and thinking, what are the big programs that I need to develop, and what are the partners that I need to do that? But also, how do those partners then integrate and work successfully together?
And I think the keyword orchestration, right?
Yeah.
Let's not just bring in more partners, because I think many people in this room either had or heard of horror stories where, hey, we had a partner and then we no longer work with that partner, but now we don't have access to the solution, or they took our data with them, or now we cannot transfer data to another partner, right? So those are the things that you should be thinking ahead of time, and also from the experimentation standpoint, probably it's not just about experimentation with tools. You might also experiment and test different partners and see how well they play with each other and whether they should become a part of your permanent partner committee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question for you. As you meet with different marketers around the world, typically what advice do they seek from you and from Google?
Yeah. So Google, first and foremost, is about how using our solutions, and we are the experts to ensure that those solutions hit their marketing or business objectives. So that's primarily what they're looking for. But because we do have conversations with so many different types of clients around the world, it's sort of like they start asking us around talent transformation and multi-partner orchestration, et cetera. And so or what partners should we use? Mm-hmm. And I think I stated before, clearly we're looking for the marketer to own their digital transformation. And it's also the marketer's responsibility to own which partner and decide which partner that they should work with. We can absolutely advise with them in terms of have we had experience, how would you work with multiple partners, here's some white paper that we've produced, etc. But predominantly, we want the marketers to lean into this topic and own it more, with us playing a much more advisory role.
Excellent. And at the end of the day, when organizations start implementing this, somebody probably, hopefully, will ask the question, so what is the ROI of this, right? How do we explain to the CEO or CIO that after doing all of this work, are we actually better or not? So what should we be measuring besides just saying, well, total online revenue? Because that's somewhat broad probably, not concrete enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, these projects are long. They can take 18 to 24 months to deliver. So it's really important that maybe you do have an end goal, and typically these are around data acquisition, e-commerce sales, in these day and age, efficiency, ROI, and how we fuel those. But I would really encourage not to wait until the project is completed to be able to deliver about those ROIs. So what are those 3, 6, 12-month milestones, and what are the KPIs that you're driving which really keep your executive sponsor enthused in the project, and the business understanding the impact. And when you're thinking about what are those metrics that matter, think about your biggest skeptic who's really reluctant to invest in resources or funds to help you deliver it. And think about how you can show along that roadmap, what are those milestones and how are they going to keep your biggest skeptic on side.
And one of the things that we do, especially with transformation of some of our global clients, whether it's J4 type of effort, is very mindful and very clear updates almost on a weekly basis. Here's what the goal that was set by you. Here's where we are progressing. Here are the next 3 things that we'll be doing next. And that type of communication doesn't just remind organizations what they are doing, but also keeps everyone up to date. Okay, it seems like we are moving in the right direction. And at some point, it's like, okay, it's going, it's progressing, and everyone starts to more buy into that because they know that it wasn't just, hey, another activity that was thrown at them. And a lot of times in companies, people look at all the activities like, yeah, but let's give it a couple of months and say maybe somebody will forget about that.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that goes back to comms, right? It
Absolutely.
comes back to the comms. It's all linked, yeah.
So last question for you. Over the past couple of weeks, AI, ChatGPT, has been in a lot of people's minds on the news. Right? Analysts keep asking me, so what's going to happen to my job? Is it going to go away? How do you think AI, or what role do you think AI plays in digital transformation?
A huge role. But I mean, yeah, so at Google, we've been investing in AI, I think, for around 10 years. And we really see it as a third iteration from the internet to mobile. And I think it was when Sundar came in as CEO, and he really announced that we are now an AI company. And we've produced amazing things, like the protein folding from DeepMind, flood forecasting for people to be able to predict if the area is going to be flooded. And for things in your hands, like Google Maps works. How to get to the quickest route is an AI model. How to compose an email or a chat, like autocompose, is an AI model. So it's infiltrated across all of our technology products. And for ads, we really think about it as really the multiplier to the ads business. And what I found out today, I don't know if this is public, but we'll keep it with us, win ourselves. But actually, Broad Match, which is one of our search functionality, we have like custom bidding, which is an AI model, but also Broad Match actually uses language AI to inform the best keywords that you should be using. So it's already within our business. I know the headlines are all around Bard or ChatGPT, but we have it throughout our product. And in all the conversations that you've probably had today, when we think about measurement, it's consented, it's first party, and it's modeled. And what's modeling mean? It means AI. So, it's really a profound technology that is already influencing how Google thinks and builds all of our products and services, from consumer services to ads services. And for businesses, it is absolutely critical, as there will be less deterministic data around. And so modeling is really going to be the game changer.
Wonderful. So let me attempt maybe to summarize everything, because I know at these types of events, everyone is looking for 3 or 4 bullet points, and we covered a lot of wonderful information. So it seems like if we are doing any type of transformational effort within the company, we need to have an executive sponsor who is on board. We need to establish our KPIs and success metrics before we get started working on the project. As we work on that project, let's set guardrails for bringing on different types of partners that can help us accomplish what is that we are after. And by partner, we can mean technology. By partner, we can mean an integration company. It can be a media company, right? But setting the right guardrails will allow you to have them as you need. And then as you continue to do this type of work, it is about experimentation. It's about change management. And then keep everyone up to date in clear communication, either written by you or by your AI.
Exactly. You've summed it up perfectly.
Did I miss anything?
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you, everyone.